Welcome back to Reimagine 2020. I'm Yonah Hochhauser, and today I'm glad to be joined by the one and only CryptoBIRB, founder of the Birb Nest. Adrian, that's your real name. Thanks so much for joining us.
I'm very happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Now, for those who are wondering why I'm dressed like a so-called basketball player, even though I am not a basketball player, it is a Tales from the Crypt Halloween special here at Reimagine. Adrian, I appreciate you joining us. Now, for those of us who might not be familiar with who you are, you want to give us a little background about who you are and how you got into crypto?
Yeah, sure, why not? It all kind of like started back in 2014, I would say, more in theory. The kind of like the topic, of crypto, Bitcoin was pretty hot and trending back then, because of the Mt. Gox, just exchange collapse, right? And it was compromised, it was hacked. So it was pretty much like very trendy and very popular to talk about in the negative aspects, for sure. So many of my friends, because my main kind of like a background that is chemical technology engineering, many of my friends were like programmers, were IT developers, coders, and so on and so forth. And many of them actually were interested in, again, programming the blockchain in the early stage. So many of them would talk about like, oh, bro, did you hear what Bitcoin did? Like it dropped, like crashed like 90%. It's never going to recover, and so on and so forth, right? So I did hear that a lot, right? But because of my studies, because of the actual, I would say, external pressures and different sets of activities that I was doing at that point, this would not really like affect me too much back then, right? So I was not really getting interested that much, definitely in the investing aspect, in the trading. So I ended up kind of like, just letting it pass, letting it just go by. And it wasn't until 2017, right, that I actually got interested, right? And with my good friend, Crypto Orangutan, that's his kind of like a nickname on Twitter. Like we kind of like did, we were supposed to launch our own startup that was like a subscription box, based, that it would put some different types of gadgets in it, like some smart lighters, for example. So smart, like there's some sort of like many different smart gadgets. Like there's a lighter that is so strong that it can literally like fire with that lighter, right? And I'm not talking about the lighter like the Zipper, or how they name it, or to light the fire literally, but more like the lighter to give you the light, right? And it's so powerful with the LEDs that it can literally just fire up. So some sort of like smart gadgets were supposed to be put in the box, but my friend, he actually got just infected with this crypto, I would say, trading activity passion, and I followed up, not so long after. And that was while the actual altcoin rallies have been starting. We're starting at that was April to May 2017. Wow. So when it was all getting fresh, new, and actually pumped up, so it was a good timing for entering, for sure.
Yeah, I think you chose the right path. I mean, I think that the future is brighter, no pun intended there, for crypto than for flashlight-based lighters. So I think you made the correct career move. I mean, it seems like you're very successful. You have a lot of followers on Twitter. You're quite popular on crypto Twitter. And that's something that I find very interesting, that in this sphere, a lot of the dialogue, a lot of the discussion, even a lot of the announcements, projects, it happens on Twitter. And it seems like crypto Twitter is this grows in step with the technology. Do you think that blockchain and cryptocurrencies would be where they're at today if not for their ability to connect with the community on Twitter?
Yeah. This is a very good question. I think if it hadn't been for the crypto Twitter itself, just for the communities building, crypto would not definitely be looking like the way it is right now. So answering the question directly, I think the answer is pretty much no, right? That it wouldn't exist like this. It wouldn't definitely be as it is right now. So communities building, like the social aspects of crypto, this is all what it kind of like started and became important. So without it, it wouldn't be the same for sure.
Mm-hmm. And did you, and you trade crypto yourself? Did you have any sort of trading background with other assets before you hopped in, or you kind of just learned it along the way?
Yeah, so there are like some minor stories, for my kind of like trading and investing and exchanging, an activity. I used to, like, before I hopped in, the actual trading in the active trading. I was doing some paper trading. I was just doing some fiat trading, pretty much like you could call that forex, of course, although it was not online. I kind of like decided at one point to just start, just tracking down the USD relation, against the Polish currency, PLN, Polish zloty. Mm, you know, at one point, it was successful. At the other point, it was not really successful. So it was all kind of like learning by mistakes. But with not really serious capital, because I was a student back then. So it was all kind of like getting started, right? Back at this point. And yeah, the truth is, that the most active part, including the app, like a constant learning and the most of the improvements. Um, this all kind of like started, as I said, with the altcoin rally back in May, April, 2017.
And when we're looking back at that 2017 to early 2018, the ICO boom, as people like to refer to it, there was a lot of hype and there was a lot of great projects, but there also was a lot of I don't want to say scams, but a lot of projects that weren't as successful and didn't have as real value to them. And now we're kind of seeing that something similar, another hype cycle with DeFi. DeFi seems to be the big thing these days. And there does seem to be a lot of exciting projects there. What are your thoughts on DeFi? Do you trade with DeFi tokens? Do you use DEXs?
Yeah, this is another good question, frankly speaking, because I think what makes crypto so special is the frequency of having this seasonality effect. Crypto is having many different seasons during a year. We have one at least once, but more often than not, it's 2, even 3 times often, that altcoins, that the crypto market is actually booming one way or another. As you said, you would have the ICO season. Then you would have, the masternode season, for example, right? Nobody remembers about the masternodes anymore. You would have the IEO season for the initial exchange offerings. You would have like, what else? Like many different, like something that actually evolved into NFTs, the non-fungible tokens, right? But before it used to be some
crypto kitties.
Yeah, some exactly, some different kind of like cards and some different stuff. So it all comes with season. It all comes with some repetitive formulas, for crypto. And for now, to answer the question, I think we will need to kind of like wait for the elections to kind of like come in the US, because I think that's, the entire market is kind of like awaiting and waiting mainly on the sidelines until then, in the uncertainty. Because of the unknown reasons. I mean, unknown results. What I wanted to say, for out of these elections. In fact, it most likely is not going to like change the overall global tendencies against the monetary system and the overall inflationary aspects, devaluing currencies. So that's most likely not going to evolve or change right now anytime soon, no matter who the president becomes to be within the elections. But what's most important in the regard of DeFi, right, is that right now we are on the edge, or actually on the line, on deciding whether or not this is just another season, like it was with the ICOs and masternodes, or this is actually a bigger thing that is pushing us to a brand new kind of like multi-year bull market for altcoins. So I do trade DeFi, right, although not as actively. I guess as many other unexperienced traders trying to counter trade and then just overtrade too much. So I do own DeFi assets. Some of them are coming like from the pre-sales, um, so some sort of like an ICOs equivalent. Some of them are kind of like stored, just I don't know, on the exchanges, on the ledgers. Some of them are I do stake. I do use these swaps pretty much for the decentralized exchanges, Texas. So yeah, I'm pretty curious to see whether or not this is just another season, right? And that, which could be the case, because most of the altcoins, the DeFi altcoins, actually retrace like 80% something, 50 to 80%, which is very typical to the bubbles and to the seasons like masternodes, and when everything pops 10x and then dumps 80-90%. So it could be the case. It is probable, so that we just simply forget about DeFi in the next couple of months as the hot trending topic, and find another one, right? So I'm looking forward to see that. I think the very near future, the next 2-3 weeks would actually prove it.
I mean, well, you mentioned there the U.S. elections and kind of how the market's waiting and seeing. Based on the outcome there, do you think either president, whoever may win, would actually have a direct effect on crypto, or more be they'll affect the overall health of the economy and the stock market, and they're like, because we've seen recently, the U.S. government has been taking major moves against certain crypto. They've been cracking down. They arrested the heads of BitREx. It seemingly they went after Salt. Kick just recently gave in to their SEC lawsuit. So we're seeing the U.S. government, as of right now, really cracking down on any sort of AML, KYC, issues, any money laundering. So will the election more affect crypto because of the economy, or more because maybe the new administration will view crypto in a more positive light?
Yeah, so I just want to kind of like put the mark that I'm definitely not a U.S. citizen, right? So I'm definitely, I guess, not going to be feeling about this. I'm watching that from a perspective, right? So it's not affecting me directly for the presidential elections, indirectly instead. So anything that I can say, may or may not be truth necessarily, but what I believe is that, as I said, to me, it doesn't matter who actually wins, because the truth is that there has been some macro trends going on. There have been some macro trends going on, and I mean about the global politics. If you look at it, what's coming from the World Economic Forum, they're literally telling you what the Agenda 2030 or 21 was. So how the world is supposed to evolve within the next decade. That you would have no property, that you would kind of like rent everything, that you would have no ownership, for example, right? That you would just rent scooters, you would just rent cars, rent apartments, you would have no ownership, right? I personally am against it, because no ownership means that you need to rely on somebody. That most likely that you need to rely on central banks, right? So
not your key is not your crypto. That's a
exactly.
basic slogan in the crypto sphere.
Exactly, and that's how it works, right? So if you don't really have the ownership over anything, you're kind of like lost, because you are owned by those who actually let you rent things, right? So yeah, I know it may become sort of like controversial, but that's how it's going to look. That's how it's going to be. Many people would just call it conspiracies and so on. But the fact is that what we are kind of like evolving into as the societies, as the, I would say, social states create like experiments in a way, is a modern way to slave people, right? It's like the invisible cages. In the past, you at least could see the cage. Right now, you're not seeing the cage, and you're actually getting comfortable in that cage, right? Which sucks even more, I guess, because people will not even realize they are their own. People will not even realize they are they're kind of like slaved, which is bad. But the crypto itself, because we are in the crypto industry, in the finance industry, crypto stands against it, right? Crypto stands against it, and Bitcoin itself, it was conceived in 2008, when it was released to the network, to the internet. 2 weeks after the Lehman Brothers bank collapse, after the entire kind of like a economic recession of 2008 and 9 started at the crash, right? So so Bitcoin was created to go against the inflation, right? Since Nixon, if I'm not mistaken, in 71 actually stepped away from the gold standard for the currencies, for fiat, for dollar. It started to evolve, into an inflationary bubble, right? It's getting more and more inflated because there are no limits. So you can print as much money as you want. You can cover, debts and pretty much cover, like the national debts, pretty much, right? With you can put the patch on the national debts with the freshly printed money. So when you think about it, it's a kind of like perfect system, but not for you. It's a perfect system for those who govern, right? It's a perfect system for governments because they can print money with no consequences. When a regular citizen prints money, they are put in jail, right? They put your ass in jail for that. But when a politician does it, it's all of a sudden it's okay. So, such logical dissonance, cognitive dissonance to some extent. I think it all corresponds with how overall unnatural this entire trend, has been becoming over the past decades. And the fact, there is something that economists would call modern monetary theory, MMT, right? And this corresponds directly with digital economies. So that there is a theory, there is an actual, I would say, practice of devaluating currency so that they become worthless, right? Like the Zimbabwean dollars, for example, right? That people just put in the trash or just they lay down on the streets because they're worthless. And hyperinflation, like what I think is happening is the hyperinflation in the controlled way, like from the economic point of view, right? And I'm sort of like slightly entitled to saying that because I also get, apart from my chemical technology engineering, I got my the second master's at the top school of economics, right? So I kind of like I feel I have a good feeling of what's going on. And Bitcoin was created to go against it. It was created with the deflationary system, right? And when you think about it, all of the economies, all of the actual technology is a deflationary model, because with the technology progressing, with the global technological advancement over the years, technology becomes cheaper, right? So the computers, not everybody could afford computers back in 2 decades ago or 3 decades ago. It would cost you half of a house and even more, perhaps in some cases. It would take as much space as well. But for now, you could get literally amazing portable computer laptop for $400, $500, right? So it all becomes cheaper. So the technology becomes cheaper, and so which means that the prices should decrease, but instead they are increasing. Every new iPhone is more expensive than the prior one, right? So there's something definitely of a big logical dissonance going on that not many people would really be aware of, which is bad, but that's how it is. And crypto goes against it. So I not only kind of believe, feel what's going on with the overall trends. I, as a technical analyst, I observe the trends, right? So I know how it looked in the past and how it may look, by extrapolation in the future. So knowing what I know, I think that owning gold, silver, and Bitcoin, and perhaps other cryptocurrencies within the next decade is going to be extremely essential to, to keep the freedom, I guess.
And and it's an interesting point where you're mentioning how they're trying. It seems like the economy is moving farther and farther away from ownership, where it's rent a scooter, rent a Airbnb, and away from ownership. And the crypto sphere has always kind of taken that opposite stance of not your keys, not your crypto, and the belief of personal ownership, of owning your currency, of owning your own data, of owning your own freedom. And so that's why I want to get your views on the recent news by PayPal that they're allowing the buying, selling of Bitcoin, but not really. You don't get to hold your keys. You can't withdraw any of the Bitcoin, but that did cause the price of Bitcoin to go up. At this point, we're recording it on October 27th. This will probably be airing on Halloween, but as of right now, Bitcoin is over 13,000 US dollars. Is a great PR for Bitcoin because it's a major company so accepting cryptocurrencies. But is this an overreaction by the market?
That's an excellent question. From my point of view, not really, because I consider Bitcoin to be undervalued in the long term. For those watching my kind of like threads or tweets, on Twitter, what I do with the Verb Nest, what I do with my, just market reports. Now they would know that I'm almost certain that we are going to new all-time high with Bitcoin. Right? That's how it technically looks like, and I'm certified to say this. So in my opinion, the all-time high is a matter of time. Not only from the technical point of view, because it, just keeps breaking the resistances, keeps making new highs, keeps making just pretty much like all the moving averages, the higher time frames are actually aligning directionally upwards. So this is a very, very strong technical trends, that are going on. Now, in the long term, when you, for example, put on, just 200-week average on your chart, it can be simple moving average, can be MA, like exponential moving average, whatever. You will notice that Bitcoin just keeps growing since ever. It just keeps growing in average, right? So when you compare the values for the MA 200, it was worth $1,000 back in 2017 when Bitcoin was actually reaching the peak. So it was extremely, just deviated from the average, of course, with 20,000. But right now, it's like the MA 200, it's freshly crossed $7,000. So it means in a matter of 3 years, not even more, not even that, it has grown on an average by 700%.
Wow.
Right. I mean, 600% net, right? Because it's 7x.
Okay.
So this just means, that majority of the market would do so much better by just holding to Bitcoin rather than just, just day trading. 90% of day traders just lose money, but that's the stereotype that you see when you go and turn the TV on, or when you ask people in the street, for who a trader is, they would just print you that picture of a person, just bold of putting out their hair, just like I did, right? Sitting in front of 10 screens with different like charts, curves, and graphs, and so on. But it's a myth, it's a stereotype, right? But people, by not having the knowledge, they absorb the stereotypes and they believe that this is the only way to go, and that's exactly why they lose money, right? So with that, again, I think since the March crash, since the black swan of COVID, as they say, I'm seeing very, very bullish reaction on the market. I'm not talking about the price action itself, but more about the actual social tendencies, right? There is definitely a brave new wave of people. Like the day the market crashed, for all the markets, like of course, the equities, the commodities, precious metals, gold, silver, Bitcoin, everything, just sliced in half. Okay, so Bitcoin market capitalization was sliced in half, just went half virtually. So it means that half of the market was liquidated in the matter of a couple of hours. So they lost money, right? And they were so much hurt that they will never go back pretty much, or at least for the next couple of years. So, and what I was seeing is paradoxically and very surprisingly to me that many new traders flew in at that point. Like many new traders got the buys. Those who were wise to stick, with Bitcoin, are actually so much, in profit right now against what it was, just back in February or March, of course. So the main conclusion is that Bitcoin is looking different than what it used to look like, before the crash, but it's looking different in the most positive way it can get. Because there is a brand new wave of people that are unexperienced, and no matter how it sounds, these are the people that create FOMO. And these are the people that create the overall bubbles to rise. So from the investment point of view, that's the condition that you need to have from the people to have the bubble, to have the amazing growth, right? That can happen. So judging from the high time frame perspective, we just have seen, the long-term breakout of this long-term, let's say 3-year long symmetrical triangle of Bitcoin. From the technical point of view, you would have a confirmation for making a new high above to 1248, right? 480, I guess that was. Yeah, I think that was it. So this high was actually broken to a new one at 13,400 almost. So all the technicals, just confirm the upsides. The fundamentals also confirm the upsides because it's a recession. Bitcoin was concepted in the recession as an answer to the recession. So it's actually passing the test right now, right? And along with silver and gold, I think it's about to pretty much like go to all-time high. Gold already made the all-time high. Silver broke out of 7-year long accumulation period, which is insane. Bitcoin keeps making up new highs, right? It just like if you go to the charts, to the statistics, you will notice that $10 billion is currently locked by institutions, and they just keep buying, right? One thing is that it's kind of like dump to buy on highs, but that's what investment like funds do at times. But those who are wise, they were collecting Bitcoins back like a couple thousand lower. That's what I kept suggesting to do. That's what I did. That's what I keep doing, on average. Then yeah, I think the market itself, it doesn't necessarily need to connect with PayPal, right? PayPal and news that you see over the media is just is a poor attempt to manipulate the price of the market. And that's kind of like confirmed. That's how it works, right? Every media has an owner. So if you have good contacts, you can make you the CEO of some media station now just put out some news for you, right? So they can just both make money. So and this is kind of like fixed by DeFi. I mean, DeFi as it is, and the actual decentralization that crypto brings.
And so then, if Bitcoin is in itself an anti-inflationary currency, and that's what gives it so much value, but when we look at a lot of these DeFi tokens, these so-called governance tokens, these liquidity provider incentivization programs, where they're trying to give away tokens to liquidity providers to try to get them to bring liquidity to their protocol. Every protocol has been trying to do this. That seems the opposite. That seems like an inflationary mechanism where they're just dumping, tens of thousands or millions of their, tokens, whether it be, Uni token or any of these DeFi protocols that are trying. Understandably, it's they want to get liquidity onto their protocol. So how do you have to incentivize people to it? So you're offering their tokens. So is there any value? Is there any investment value in buying up any of these so-called governance tokens or utility tokens or whatever you want to call them?
I personally rarely ever take part in the airdrops, mostly because I don't have time. But secondly, is because of the actual inflationary part, right? So most of the airdrops are kind of like worthless. It doesn't mean you can not make money out of it, right? When you actually, just combine so many different airdrops that are worth like $10, all of a sudden you maybe wake up to, a couple of grand in your account, which is positive. But if this is a way to go, I doubt it, right? I mean, incentivizing people, like bringing in the incentives, of course, is a very important, just way to act marketing wise and to let the companies grow. So I understand the strategy out of it. At the same time, I think it's all about the balance, right? When you distribute too much, you actually make your community boil, right? The temperature rises. They're unhappy. They kind of like just bail the project, right? They like in crypto, it's more about the communities, just as we kind of like touched upon at the very beginning. So if you get your community angry, they can disrupt your project, right? If you keep them happy, on the other hand, you're creating a strong community of believers, of supporters. But yeah, I mean, some people are here for the technology, the others are here for the investing. I'm here for the investing, right? I just collect profits out of it because that's the way to make money. because to answer frankly a question of whether or not Bitcoin is going to become a global currency, I don't think so, right? Because there are central banks against it. So I think, it's again, it's about keeping the balance, right? Knowing it's good, it's better, that it may be overall tendency for the cryptocurrency to kind of like be implemented into the digital economies per se. Knowing that this is the direction is good, but at the same time, it doesn't mean that your shitcoin is going to become the global currency.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I agree with you there, and it's interesting to see because I speak to a lot of people for these conferences, and some of them and a lot of them are there for the technology. You're there for the investment to make money, and that's the beauty. They're both of those gains, let's say, are available here. I mean, it is exciting new technology, and there is investment money to be made. And so I do appreciate you being forward about that. And what do you suggest to someone, like you mentioned, this is there is a whole bunch of new potential traders coming into the market ever since COVID brought down the market. There are tons of people, and you mentioned those are the people who are the FOMO traders. So what would you suggest, or what kind of advice would you give to them? They're coming in, they see this market, they always hear Bitcoin. It looks like I mean, right now it's pretty high in terms of its history, but the technicals are saying this is only going to go higher. How do you suggest to a newcomer to come into the market? I believe in Bitcoin, I want to invest in it. Do I put all my money into it? Do I have, set buys at every 10%? How do you suggest they do it?
So I'm a big fan of understanding the theory first, right? So I definitely don't recommend to anybody to start investing because before they understand what's going on, before, like, how could you ever make money if you don't understand how it works, right? I mean, you can be happy, but it cannot, it may be short-term impulse in plus for you, but you're not going to be definitely able to sustain it, right? If you win 10 million on the lottery, you can easily just lose it because you don't really manage money well. So it's more about understanding, the mechanism. It's more about understanding the theoretical aspects first, which is what majority won't ever do because that's, people are lazy. people never choose to work, they will always choose to kind of like stay lazy and passive. And that's the reason why they lose, right? That's the reason why they keep losing. But until they realize that, it actually lost everything. So the truth is that if you are a beginner, if somebody just wants to start, investing in Bitcoin, or any other altcoins or crypto industry as it is, I definitely recommend to kind of like dive into the specifications, to dive into the theoretical aspects, again, to definitions, which are the most important, to reading the white papers, to understand, to become sort of like a specialist whenever possible, right? When you do this, only then can you really know what you are getting into. And when you know it, right, only then, the entire fun begins. When you know where you are in, when you know your context, then can you focus on making money, right? And to have it, it's all about reading books. It's about reading the articles, like connecting with the right people, staying and surrounding yourself with the right people, finding the right people to kind of like ask and to mentor you, right? Everybody used to have some sort of like a mentor, like Warren Buffett had Benjamin Graham, right? And Warren Buffett is one of the wealthiest investors right now. So it's about the persistence, it's about the patience, it's about following and being surrounded with the right people, like with the creative people. If you stay too long with distracted people that are hateful, like they keep hating, they bring you bad vibes, you're not going to come out good out of it, right? So more importantly, instead, choose to invest in yourself. That's what Warren Buffett says, right? If you invest in yourself, like the best investment you can make is an investment in yourself. He says that the more you learn, the more you will earn. And that's what I believe. That's what I know works simply. So that is exactly what I do recommend. And for everybody that feels they are new, for example, right? On my website on theburbness.com, they can find like tons of free materials and free resources. You don't need to necessarily pay instantly but at least do something, just stay active, and that's what's going to keep you well-being, I guess.
Well, that seems like wonderful advice, not only for crypto traders, but for everyone anywhere. Invest in yourself and continue to learn. And I appreciate that. But this is the Tales of the Crypt, a Halloween themed Reimagine 2020 conference. And so I'm asking every single person, what is the scariest crypto story that happened to you?
Good one. So there are definitely a few. I was kind of like hacked a couple of times, I guess. I used to have about 1 Bitcoin worth on Cryptopia in different altcoins, shitcoins, but it all kind of like evaporated after the hack. I used to engage with some, let's say, not right people at some point, although I trusted them with the investments, with some kind of like sales, private sales, ICOs, and so on. So there was apparently a scammer involved, and they kind of like they literally scammed them and just took away like $200,000, I guess, worth of Bitcoin from the allocation for a project. On top of it, I was actually hacked from my other wallet. So I guess it's more about the security and the safety of your funds. The more money you have, the more responsibility you should be kind of like, just having around it. Because otherwise it's easier to lose, right? If you, nobody's going to kind of like chase your ass to steal $100 from you, right? But they will if you own $100 million. So that's the safety that is compromised very often, right? Lots of hacks. Lots of very negative surprises, right? Definitely not having stop losses is a nightmare. When you see, again, for those who actually bought, just DeFi's right on top, and back in August and July, they're like 90% down already, or 80%, right? So these are the nightmares that it's maybe not kind of like scary per se, that you are literally like terrified, or I mean like frightened, or just you fear literally, right? If you know what I mean. But it's some scary shit when you think about it, when you're standing on the edge of losing millions of thousands of dollars. That may be your lifetime savings.
Yeah, these are the stories that keep crypto traders up at night. And so I appreciate you taking the time to sit down and speak to us, and letting our viewers know a little bit about kind of what mindset they should have when going into crypto trading and in life itself. So CryptoBirb, I appreciate you taking the time and joining us. I hope you feel better. And for all of our viewers here at Reimagine 2020, I'm Yonah Hochhauser. Thanks for watching.
I appreciate it.